Xi Jinping is trying to save China's economy, but in doing so, he might bring about the CCP's ultimate destruction. Welcome to China Uncensored, I'm Chris Chappell. Wall Street is having major buyer's remorse on China. I would feel bad for them if it hadn't been blatantly obvious that selling out to a communist regime was not a smart financial decision. Didn't even need to take one of those pills from Limitless to see that one. And stick around till the end because I'm going to show you how Xi Jinping might end up completely blowing up China's economy. According to the Wall Street Journal in September, Wisconsin Republican Mike Gallagher, the chair of the House Committee on China, had a meeting with some of Wall Street's best-known financiers. The financiers told Gallagher they already were ratcheting back their investments there. And they aren't talking pinching pennies. Chinese government data shows that institutional investors have pulled out over $31 billion in stocks and bonds from the start of this year to October. China is bleeding money in a way it hasn't since it joined the World Trade Organization in 2001. One of the people at the event said there has been a bit of an awakening among the U.S. financial executives about investment risks in China. That's good. Now that they're awake, maybe my living night terrors about China can stop. Obviously, things like the genocide of Uyghurs or harvesting the organs from still living Falun Gong practitioners had nothing to do with the change in attitude. No, it's because China isn't really profitable anymore. Again, it's a communist country. That shouldn't have been that hard to figure out. Even Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater, a super bullish hedge fund on China, has started pulling back. Private equity funds targeting China are struggling to get cash. They used to average about $100 billion each year. This year, they struggled to raise just over $4 billion. Mutual fund managers such as Vanguard and Van Eck Associates have either pulled out or aborted their China plans. And credit ratings agency Moody recently downgraded China's credit outlook to negative. But it's not just Wall Street that's been spooked. Even China's elite are tucking tail and running. According to London-based investment migration consultancy Henley & Partners, 10,000 millionaires had left China and moved to other countries in 2022. And their number one destination? America. The place all the hyper-patriotic Chinese trolls love to criticize and then move to. There are a lot of reasons why this is happening. China's in the middle of a real estate crisis that is having a ripple effect on the entire economy. There are signs of deflation. On top of that, there's a demographic crisis. Soon there will be too few young people to support China's rapidly aging population. Despite that, youth unemployment is so high, they just stopped reporting it. Then there's the issue of China's recently updated anti-espionage law.
Chinese state TV broadcast these images of police raiding the Shanghai offices of U.S. firm Capvision. The issue is a broad new espionage law that cracks down on data collection, which opens up Americans to criminal prosecution for simply conducting what would be a normal business activity in any other country.
Of course, China wants American businesses to know that's absolute nonsense. China's Ministry of State Security published this article called "Facts Cannot Be Discredited. 4 Fallacies About the Counter-Espionage Law Destroying the Business Environment." Part 1. Communists have too much time on their hands. The article says that the espionage law has been subject to malicious attacks and smears, with some foreign forces with ulterior motives fanning the flames by spreading absurd arguments that the law was damaging the business environment, that the PRC was expanding national security, and claiming that regular business activities in China could be regarded as espionage. And why would we have any cause to distrust China's spy agency? So China's economy is in a bad place, which is why Xi Jinping is taking radical action to turn around China's economy. But if he's not careful, he could end up blowing up the whole thing. I'll tell you his plans right after this quick commercial break. Welcome back. Xi Jinping is embarking on a plan to save China's failing economy, but it could end up being the very thing that finally breaks it. Xi recently gave a speech at the 2023 Central Financial Work Conference, basically a very important economic meeting of all the top party cadres. Filter that through the party propaganda apparatus, and you get this article in Qiushi, the party's main ideological newspaper that tells everyone the official party line. It's called Unswervingly Follow the Path of Financial Development with Chinese Characteristics. Apparently, Chinese characteristics look very similar to Marxist political and economic ideology. It says she has the profound answer to the many major theoretical and practical problems that have not been addressed by classical Marxist writers, have not been encountered by our predecessors, and have always remained unsolved by Western financial theories. Which is sure true, because I don't remember Milton Friedman ever saying the way to a sound economy is adhering to the centralized and unified leadership of parties central over financial work. It was so obvious. A New York Times summary of the article says it made clear that it expected banks, pension funds, insurers, and other financial organizations in China to follow Marxist principles and pay obedience to Mr. Xi. Xi is trying to have an even greater hand in China's economy. I think this is something Xi has wanted to do for a long time, but hasn't had the political clout to pull it off. To an extent, what Xi is trying to do makes sense. Part of the reason China's economy is so terrible is because it's not a real economy. I've called it a financialized economy, where a group of party elite manipulated the economy for their own enrichment. The real estate sector is a perfect example. Subsidies and unscrupulous lending allowed well-connected real estate developers to embark on massive construction projects, and some people got rich. But that meant, according to a top official, while there's 1.4 billion people in China, there could be enough vacant homes in China to house up to 3 billion people. That's a system that was obviously going to blow up. We're seeing that happen now. So Xi has to break apart the control these elites have had over the economy. They're so-called independent kingdoms. But Xi probably doesn't have the power to do that. That's why the Qiushi article called Xi's speech an inheritance and innovation of Marxist political economy theory on finance. Xi is creating legitimacy for himself by casting what he's doing in a broader Marxist ideological context. So you can't criticize what he's doing without criticizing Marxism. Something I have no problem with, but might be sticky for a CCP official. But this isn't going to work out for Xi. In his pursuit of absolute control, Xi has terrified both Chinese and Western entrepreneurs. Foreign companies are fleeing over fears of the counter-espionage law. Even Wall Street is disillusioned with China's economic miracle. As China Insider says, by accelerating his rectification of the financial sector, Xi is also accelerating the deterioration of the Chinese economy. Now, I have some more thoughts on all that, along with a video I want to show you. But first, it's time to show some love to the China Uncensored 50-cent army, the fans who make this show possible by supporting us on Patreon. All it takes is $1 or more per episode, and you can set a monthly limit. That's patreon.com/China Uncensored. Today's question comes from, some people call me the Space Cowboy. What do you think would ultimately cause China to commence an attack on Taiwan? They've made so many threats that they haven't fulfilled, but what do you think would make them take action? Now, that's a really interesting question. China has said that if Taiwan declares independence, it would invade. Now, the current president and the guy who looks likely to replace her in the 2024 election say they don't need to declare independence because they already are independent. But this is the thing. The threat of an invasion is a far more powerful weapon for the CCP than an actual invasion. In Washington, there's a lot of fear over how much and what support to give Taiwan because of fear it could provoke China into invading. But an actual invasion could go very badly for China. So the CCP much prefers to have the threat of invasion hanging over everyone's head to scare them into giving the CCP what they want without actually having to invade anything. Thanks for your question and your support. Now, YouTube doesn't like me talking about controversial topics. That's why I've hidden them in gaming content on my new show, Deep Thoughts While Gaming. This week I talk about the spectacular disaster of the day before and why you shouldn't blame others for problems in your life, like a filthy communist would, and you should take hardships as joy. Check it out and let me know what you think. And hit that orange button to support the show on Patreon. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.